I'm very happy to be able to introduce Gracia Basham for her first speaking morning of this year. She always speaks from the heart, and it's very touching. So thank you for being here with us, Gracia.
Thank you, Jane, for the perfect opening words to my sermon. Not even sure I have to give it anymore. I'm really, really glad to be back, and I hope everyone's summer was good. I think this month marks the beginning of our church year, and it's always an exciting time. We greet friends and we take up new positions. We make music together and we see changes around us. And so I wrote a prayer for our beginning. May the year ahead bring us growth of spirit and a stretching of the soul. We will celebrate the turning of the seasons, marvel at each leaf as it changes color. We will honor our traditions and our sources. May this year see us solve problems together, march toward justice, bring hope to the grieving and food to the hungry. May we be a voice of truth for those who need to hear it. We will strive to uplift each other, to be there for the joys and the sorrows that we will go through. May this building hold all our questions, all of our doubts. We will allow each other to use our minds to open our hearts. May it be so, and blessed be. As we begin this year, I want to remember those of our community who are no longer here. Some of our friends moved away. Some moved to be closer to family, and some of our friends we lost, and we want to keep them in our heart. And also with this new year, we will welcome visitors and strangers. Let us work to be a welcoming place, even if they visit only one time. 2 weeks ago, I went to a cluster meeting in our district with Emily and Kathy, our president and vice president, and I'm so thankful for their leadership in representing our church. And we met a lot of people who go to UU churches very similar to ours that are lay-led and smaller than 100 members. It was wonderful to be able to compare notes, to exchange ideas, because these are people who keep churches alive in very conservative parts of our country, which we know what that feels like. And in talking with these new friends, I heard some of the same frustrations of being misunderstood in their community, of hearing people describe their church as pagans or heathens or the lost or the gay church. And we also spoke of the challenges of climate change, of poverty all around us, of the homeless families who search for a safe place to spend the night. And it led me to start thinking about how we keep our balance in the work that we do. It can be discouraging when we see needs all around us and we feel we can only make a small difference. It can be challenging when working for change in our community, when even after our best efforts and some of the heroic work that this church has done, when our county decides to frack the entire place, we worry about the state of our water and what it will do to our country. But when officials don't listen, how do we keep moving forward? How do we not just give up? And I think no matter what the work is that each of us do, whether it's organic gardening or feeding the hungry or working with the poor or sick or being a teacher or a counselor, we may simply need to recognize the importance of what we do even when we're on the losing side. Gordon McKeeman was a UU minister, and he talked about the ministry that each of us do. He wrote this: "Ministry is a quality of relationship between and among human beings that beckons forth hidden possibilities, inviting people into deeper, more constant, more reverent relationship with the world and with one another. Carrying forward a long heritage of hope and liberation that has dignified and informed the human venture over many centuries, being present and informed and being with others in their terrors and torments, in their grief, misery, and pain, knowing that these feelings are our feelings too. Celebrating the triumphs of the human spirit, the miracles of birth and life, the wonders of devotion and sacrifice, witnessing to life-enhancing values, speaking truth to power, speaking for human dignity and equality, for compassion, believing in life in the presence of death, struggling for human responsibility, all of this, there is ministry. Sometimes your ministry is simply to care for your family, your children, your job, and there's barely enough time left over. Sometimes the challenges of paying bills, of simply making ends meet, leaves us with nothing to give. And in times of stress and worry, we may become discouraged. And when we get this way, we need to gather together in this safe space where we can recharge. It is part of the important function of this church. We can speak freely of our challenges and recuperate in the safety that we feel here. Feeding our minds and our hearts can be a help as you go through your week. And seeing the friendly faces in this congregation can be the boost that you need to face another day. There will be heartache in life. It is inescapable. And in the face of some things, we are helpless to know what to do. I remember when my mother was sick when I was young. She didn't go to the doctor even for a checkup, and we didn't know that she had heart disease. And one evening, she was talking with my father and my oldest brother and myself, and she started voicing her doubts about the very conservative, strict church that we were attending. And she said that the prophecies had not come to pass, and that she was afraid that the church was a mistake. And I couldn't believe my ears. But she was just so troubled, and my father was just kind of ignoring her, and no one was listening, and I was feeling horrible for her. And she asked me, she said, "Would you pray with me?" And she kneeled beside the couch. And I caught her in my arms as she fell over. The ambulance came, and we all hurried to the hospital. And they put our large family in a room right across from the room where they were working on my mother. It was just a small hospital. The doctor told us that we needed to be brave. He said it was very bad. And we didn't know what else to do. And so we started singing her favorite hymn, softly. And the work on my mother slowed, and the doctor just stood there, and the nurses were crying as we finished the song. We didn't need to be told that she was gone. It's times like these when we're helpless to know what to do, helpless to prevent a tragedy. All we can do sometimes is to be present, to sing, to bear witness, to remember. And maybe, even as we do the work to save our planet, and sometimes we feel that we are failing, maybe what is important is that we bore witness, that we were there, we were present, and that we remember. Maybe it's just me, but this summer the news seemed so troubling. I can't stand to watch the news every night. It's depressing. Sometimes I read the news instead, or I watch the comedy news programs. It gives myself a break. There are so many problems, so many uncertainties. And I remind myself to be grateful for today, to work for tomorrow, to hope that answers are found. For truly, it's too big for me. I don't know what to do. So I turn and I focus on the things that are within my reach, the things that I can do, the change that I can be where we live. It may not be much, but it is all I can do. I believe that if every person did the little that they could, this world would be a different place. It must begin with me. It must begin with us. It must begin with our church. And as we do our missioning and vision work that we're going to do with Raj Mehta, and we contemplate what our church is about, what we love, what we want to become, let us realize that we can make a difference. We can be a light, a helping hand to someone that needs it, a bearer of food to the hungry. We can help each other. And as we think of where we want to be in the future, let us dream big and put our hands to the things that we can do. A man named Kevin said this, "Today I choose life. Every morning when I wake up, I can choose joy, happiness, negativity, or pain to feel the freedom that comes from being able to continue to make mistakes and choices. Today I choose to feel life, not to deny my humanity, but to embrace it." A few years ago, I was in Disney World with my daughter. We were in the animal kingdom early in the morning, very few people there yet. And we noticed a small tent set up, and there were two girls, very slim, pretty, in long white saris, long dark hair. And they were representing their country, and you could go up to the tent and find out things about where they lived and what it was like. And so we walked up and talked to them, and I was wondering what they had to put up with standing there for 8 hours every day. I wondered if there were crude comments or jokes that they had to listen to. I wondered, how do we treat them? What do we seem like to them? And so we talked with them a little while, and I asked them, "Do you like working here?" I said, "Are you glad that you came?" Because they were on a year's tour of duty. And her answer floored me. She told me of growing up in her country where she had never known anything but war. She told me about being shot at as she walked to school. Sri Lanka has been in war for decades. She told me that for a girl, there was only one path out, and that was education. And you didn't just get an education, you had to be the best. She said only the best were chosen to work at Disney World. And she told me that she worried about the day when she would have to return. She said, I have an apartment here, and I share it with my friend. She said, I get my own paycheck. And she said, I get one day off every week. And when that day comes, she said, sometimes we go shopping and I get to spend my own money. She said, sometimes we go swimming and sometimes we even go out to eat. And I just was horrified at my own ignorance, at how ungrateful that I can be about how I think sometimes I have it hard. And she told me it's my dream someday to be an American. She said, when I go back home, if I can keep studying, maybe someday I'll get out. I wished her the best, and I walked away, but I just went around the corner to where I could still listen. And I waited as other people came up to talk to her, and I wanted to hear how she was treated and what she said to the people. But she spoke very differently to everyone else. I stayed there for quite a while, and what she talked about was the beauty of her country, the exports, the music, and the dress, and what they did. But she never shared with anyone what she had told me. I wonder if part of life is remembering the things that we have to be grateful for, even when our country isn't perfect, even when we have doubts for the future. This is a beautiful poem by Anna. She must be a Russian. I can't pronounce her name. She says, I taught myself to live simply and wisely, to look at the sky and pray to God, and to wander long before evening to tire my superfluous worries. When the burdocks rustle in the ravine, and the yellow-red rowanberry cluster droops, I compose happy verses about life's decay and beauty. I come back, the fluffy cat licks my palm, purrs so sweetly, and the fire flares bright on the sawmill turret by the lake. Only the cry of a stork landing on the roof occasionally breaks my silence. If you knock on my door, I may not even hear you.